Nugenix Total T2, the next generation testosterone booster. Text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever. Absolutely. 215. That's COUNCE to 215-215. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
The Justin Kinner Show. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show. Right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, everybody, we welcome you in live here on a Tuesday. It's been a while, I feel like, since we've had a show. Look, I love the fact that it's Red season, but Red spring training action, a lot of the games are all at 3 o'clock, and it preempts my show, which, you know, some of you think that just gives me an off day. There's a lot of stuff I do leading into the show, but nonetheless, the Reds, no Reds today, but we got a lot to get into. I mean, it's March, college basketball, Paul Fritschner, Rebound Rundown. He's going to join us coming up here around the corner. We're going to talk about the big Bengals news that was just announced. I shouldn't say big Bengals news. I guess it just depends on what side of the coin you fall on, whether this is big news or not. And that's what I want to open up with. ESPN's Adam Schefter just a little bit ago announced that the Cincinnati Bengals are not going to exercise the franchise tag on Trey Hendrickson, and Trey Hendrickson is officially going to be free agent. So it's interesting seeing a lot of the different opinions and takes that are coming in on this. The Bengals are not, Ian Rappaport, the Bengals are not franchise tagging star pass rusher Trey Hendrickson. Tom Pelissero, of course, in on the report as well, along with ESPN's Adam Schefter. One of the NFL's best pass rushers is officially free. So the thing that's interesting is ESPN put out a list not too long ago stating that, well, you know, they ranked the top 50 free agents this upcoming NFL offseason. And not just in the top 50, not the top 40, 30, 20, or even the top 10, but number one on that list was Trey Hendrickson. And this has been a weird little soap opera between Trey Hendrickson and the Cincinnati Bengals for years now. And I can't wrap my head around that. You know, the Bengals have been so desperate for defense, but yet the only defensive player worth a damn on their defense, they just couldn't seem to have good relations with. It doesn't make any sense. And, if you do have a list that comes out and Trey Hendrickson is listed as the number one free agent in the 2026 free agent class, and he is a dominant pass rusher, a dominant defender, and you are a Cincinnati Bengals team that is in desperate need of defense, how do you just let him go? You mean to tell me that Trey Hendrickson had no value? I'm not even mad that the Bengals didn't even try to find a way to bring him back. But a tag and trade? Duke Tobin wasn't intelligent enough. The dope that he is, he wasn't intelligent enough to come up with a way to execute a sign and trade or a tag and trade? You mean to tell me that Trey Hendrickson, there's not a lot of pass rushers like him in the NFL. I get it if you don't have plans for him moving forward or that the relationship is soured to the point where there's not going to be a path moving forward. But the Bengals just opting to just say, to wipe their hands of the situation and just let him. So he's just an outright free agent. This is a big day for Trey Hendrickson. I think it's a bad day for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this is big news because I think for a team like Cincinnati that needs all of the draft picks and all the draft capital that they can use, they need all the help that they can get. You have the worst defense in the NFL. You have one of the best defensive players in the NFL, and you let that one of the best defensive players in the NFL just walk for absolutely nothing. I have a problem with that, and I think that you guys should as well. I am not necessarily upset with the Bengals for not continuing on with Trey Hendrickson. I just think it's absolutely so arrogant and stupid of a bad franchise, a bad front office to sit there and just not even attempt to get anything in return. Teams want pass rushers. There's a dominant market out there. There's a big market out there for dominant pass rushers. The Bengals, who, and I saw Goodberry had tweeted this out earlier today, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this. He said it was the Bengals' best free agent acquisition ever. And I thought that was a little bit much, but I thought about it. I don't know who was the biggest who was a bigger free agent signing in the history of the Cincinnati Bengals than Trey Hendrickson. There's bigger names, but a free agent acquisition, what was Trey Hendrickson was a guy that at the time, because he had one really good offseason in his previous stop, the Bengals went in at $20 million. I, foot in my mouth, said that was such a leap at the time. $20 million for a pass rusher was an absolute ton. And I thought it was kind of stupid of the Bengals to go all in on that front, to go in after Trey Hendrickson for $20 million at the time, because he only had one good season. It's not as if he was a known commodity. Well, the Bengals went in, they gave him the $20 million, and they ended up getting $30 million, $35 million, $40 million worth of value in Trey Hendrickson. The problem is they just couldn't figure out anything else around him on the defensive side of the ball. So ESPN's Adam Schefter for just joining us. It's the Justin Kinner Show live here on a Tuesday, 1410 ESPN Radio. The Bengals decided to just let him go. They did not slap the franchise tag on him. Some of you are saying, well, that's fine. They didn't want Trey Hendrickson. I get it. You don't want Trey Hendrickson. That's completely fine. But Trey Hendrickson has value. Trey Hendrickson could have got something in return for you. And as far as I'm concerned, when you have the worst defense in the NFL with a dominant pass rusher like him, you need all the help you can get. And Trey Hendrickson, the number one free agent, according to multiple networks out there. ESPN put out their top free agent list, and Trey Hendrickson was listed as the number one free agent this offseason. You have that target in your possession, and you can't find a way to tag and trade. Chad Finster, Chad, I hope you are well. I know I haven't been on the air in a while. I always appreciate when you tune in and interact with the show. Chad says they should have tagged and traded him. They should have tagged, and absolutely. That's really what this comes down to. I'm over the fact that Cincinnati somehow has convinced themselves that with the worst defense in the NFL, that they can't use a guy like Trey Hendrickson. We've all kind of going to accept that. What I can't accept is a team like Cincinnati, with all the mistakes that they have made in recent years, continuing to shoot themselves in the foot. You could have got something in return. I'm not saying that teams would have lined up to give you a first-round pick for the guy. You would have gotten a lot better than a fifth-round pick. You would have gotten a lot better than a fourth-round pick. I mean, a second or a third-round pick for a desperate team out there that wants the rights to Trey Hendrickson. Man. Chad Kinster says, I genuinely want Cleveland to sign him. As a Bengals fan, I want them to regret it twice a year. It'll be interesting to see who goes after him. A lot of times when players like this leave a team who are disgruntled, if they could find a way to have their cake and eat it too, they'll pursue that opportunity. The Baltimore Ravens want Trey Hendrickson, and he can get paid and stay in the AFC North and continue to go after the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he would love to stick it back to the Cincinnati Bengals. Not so much Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow is just going to be a casualty of the buffoonery that is the front office of the Cincinnati Bengals. That's an interesting one. I don't know if Cleveland would be in position to do that. I mean, can you imagine, though, a defensive line that would have Trey Hendrickson and Myles Garrett would be pretty sick. Pittsburgh, maybe, although Pittsburgh really needs to truly focus everything that they have on that offensive side of the ball. Baltimore, but the AFC in general, the NFC, I could see Detroit going after him. I think he's going to stay in the AFC. I think Lou Anarumo and the Colts, him going to play for his former defensive coordinator when he was in Cincinnati. I think the Colts make a lot of sense there. Who knows what's going to ultimately happen? But I think the Bengals made a huge mistake. What do you guys think? 937-518-1410. That is our call-in and text-in number. You can text your thoughts on this Trey Hendrickson situation, or you can call into the show. 937-518-1410. Let's go to AJ. AJ, you are on live, sir. Thanks for holding.
Hey, what's up, Justin? I don't know how Tobin keeps his job. This is total incompetence in the front office. This should have been taken care of last year. The scenario that they were in, I mean, essentially, for all intents and purposes, yeah, he was, air quotes, injured, but essentially he sat out. He held out all last year, got paid. Bengals wasted money on that whole year, and then now you get nothing in return. I just think it would be front office 101. This is what they would teach in like the basic entry-level classes of business when it comes to the NFL. For them to have such a hot commodity and get absolutely nothing in return for it is egregious.
Yep, and I see some people are chiming in saying, that some reports are saying that the Bengals tried. Oh, well, by golly, they tried. I don't care that they tried. They didn't execute it. It's no longer about trying. The Bengals tried to draft good players, and they failed. They tried to sign players in free agency and failed. They tried to trade Trey Hendrickson, and they have failed. This is just another bullet point of all the failures on their list. I think this is a mistake. Like I said, I'm not really against them for saying, hey, we're going to move on from a 31-year-old pass rusher. I get that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand it. What I don't understand and what I can't comprehend is how in what is considered the biggest offseason in the history of the franchise, off to this type of a start, I think it nullifies, the fact that they did get a deal done with the fan favorite offensive lineman of theirs. But I think that this cloud, overshadows that.
Yeah, it absolutely overshadows it. It's one of those deals. I agree with you. Yeah, if it wasn't going to work out with Trey Hendrickson, it wasn't going to work out, part way. But get something in return. Even if you get like a third, fourth, fifth round pick, it's better than just letting them walk.
Something. You need absolutely everything you can get, as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, it's not like he's just a good player. ESPN listed him as the number one free agent in this offseason. You mean to tell me he has no value? Oh, they tried to trade him? You mean to tell me the number one free agent that teams are going to line up to try to get had no value in any kind of trade scenario out there? I have a hard time believing that. But who knows?
Like I said, it's total incompetence by the front office. So much to be expected from the Bengals, unfortunately.
AJ, I appreciate the call, man. Thank you.
Later, Justin.
937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. Matt Fink. Matt, hope you're well. He's live in the chat. He's on the Justin Kinder Show Facebook page. You can watch the show there. We're live on that page as well as the Justin Kinder Show YouTube channel. Matt Fink says, as a Bengals fan, this is embarrassing and unsurprising. If I know my team well enough, they think they'll get a compensation pick for Trey, which tells me they won't go after many free agents. Stupid. I guess there is that side of it, too, that I might have neglected to, consider here. They are going to get, I think it's a third-round pick, a compensatory pick. So I believe it's a third. I could be wrong on that. If you're going to get a third-round pick as a compensatory pick, and I'm not walking back my take on this because I have zero faith in Duke Tobin. I think he's a dork. I think he's the worst GM in football. I don't understand how he has a job. We all understand why he has a job, but no one actually truly thinks he's good at his job. Yes, I'm being harsh, and this isn't, he hates the Bengals. I think this guy's a joke. I've always found him to be a joke. And it all started back with the T. Higgins thing when he actually had a half a brain cell in his head when he actually came out and said, my job is not to make other teams better, all while continuing to fail at making his own team better. And since then, I've never respected the guy, and I've thought he sounded like a complete fool ever since. And he continues to make up, to put me right on that. However, maybe, just maybe, they attempted to move Trey Hendrickson. It sounds like, according to reports, they did, but it's a results-based business. I don't care that you tried. What was the end result? They failed. Maybe, just maybe, however, to Matt's point about the compensation pick, the compensatory pick, if they're going to get a third-round pick for losing him anyways, maybe that's where the negotiation started, and if you can't do better than a third-round pick, why move him? Maybe. But again, I think Duke Tobin doesn't deserve one little tiny consideration of the doubt whatsoever. I don't give him any, whatever. Nonetheless. Chad says this all falls on Duke Tobin being and Mike Brown being a, cheap. So there you go. It's the Justin Kinder Show, 1410 ESPN Radio, 937-518-1410. Phone lines are open. Did the Bengals make a mistake here? They are not going to use the franchise tag on Trey Hendrickson. He is just outright leaving. The Bengals get nothing in return for him. They just let him go. ESPN tabs him as the number one free agent in this free agent cycle. You mean to tell me he had no value? No team out there was willing to give up anything of substance to acquire one of the most dominant pass rushers in football? I have a hard time believing that. Do you? 937-518-1410. Call or text. I'll read your text. I'll read your reaction on the social media pages. I'll take your calls more when we come back. More of the Justin Kinder Show next.
The Justin Kinder Show. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
zone, AutoZone. Jeff's day is off to a slow start. So he heads to AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination, where Sammy, a local AutoZoner, tests his battery for free. Looks like he just needs a charge. And Sammy does that for free too. In no time at all, Jeff is back on the road, ready to finish the day strong. Free battery testing and charging at every store. No hassles, just help. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter. Do you have at least 1 month worth of food in your pantry? If not, you should definitely go to MyPatriotSupply.com right now. My Patriot Supply is America's #1 supplier of long-term storable food. They've helped over 3 million Americans get prepared. And for a limited time, when you order their best-selling 4-week food supply, you'll get an additional week of food absolutely free. There's no catch, but act fast because this offer ends soon. Claim your free emergency food kit now at MyPatriotSupply.com. That's MyPatriotSupply.com.
With Progressive Insurance, drivers who switch to Progressive could save big. See if you could save by calling 1-800-PROGRESSIVE or visiting Progressive.com. Again, call 1-800-PROGRESSIVE or online at Progressive.com.
For decades, people have been asking, what's the famous recipe behind Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken? And we've decided we're finally going to tell you. Starting with the 8-piece family meal and its 8 pieces of crispy, delicious bone-in chicken, 4 fluffy, buttery biscuits, and 2 large sides. Oh, wait, I'm just getting word from our lawyers that I can't actually tell you any of that. So, better pick up an 8-piece family meal and figure it out for yourself. Good luck. The 8-piece family meal, only at Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, famous for a reason.
Hey, Cordell Transportation is now hiring experienced Class A CDL drivers, excellent pay, benefits, and a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Apply now online at CordellTransportation.com. Do it right now. Driven to succeed.
The 2024 Clark County Fair is going on July 19th through the 26th. Howdy, it's country music songwriter Hastings. I'm coming up from Nashville and I'm bringing some of my favorite songwriters to my hometown. This Friday, July 26th, Hastings Music presents Nashville and Clark County from 12 to 6 p.m. in the CTC Shelter House. Put your Crocs in 4-wheel drive and stop by for the songs we've written and the stories behind them. See songwriter Elena Jones, Paige Davis, Mark Mulch, and very special guest Ali Colleen. This is a laid-back event and we'll see you Friday at the Clark.
Jackson Hewitt knows taxes are complicated, and with multiple jobs and tax forms, they're like sonata complicated. Our no surprise pricing keeps things simple. Jackson Hewitt does your taxes for only $149 or less. And since we know all the new tax codes, you could get thousands back. So what are you waiting for? Hurry. File with Jackson Hewitt today for only $149 or less, guaranteed. Limited time offer for new clients on federal returns. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com/149.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
So my friends over at Pure Talk have been sending me customer feedback from consumeraffairs.com, where thousands of people rate and review the top wireless providers. Here, for instance, is a nice note from James in Raleigh, North Carolina, who writes, quote, after hearing Mike Rowe's ad, we made the switch to Pure Talk, and we couldn't be happier. We went from spending $1,200 a year with T-Mobile to $420 with Pure Talk. Thanks, Mike. Switch today exclamation point. Pure Talk is saving James $820 a year. And because he literally wrote the words switch today in capital letters with an exclamation point, I'm going to go ahead and dedicate this commercial to him. So folks, take it from James in Raleigh, North Carolina. Pure Talk can give you unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data for just $25 a month on the same 5G service the big guys are overcharging you for. Just dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe. You'll also save 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 to save an additional 50%. Thanks, James.
When you're vacationing in your RV, there are some things you can always count on. Laying out on a hammock, waking up to birds chirping, and board games with the family.
What? It's not cheating.
Frank, you're scaring the kids.
Oh, come on, guys. We're having fun. It's family time.
With Progressive, your RV is protected 24/7, so you're prepared for whatever you don't see coming.
Technically, it's a loophole.
It's a children's board game. You're a grown man, Frank.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in D.C.
The Justin Kinner Show. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Nine 937-518-1410. That's the number that you can call or text to jump in on the conversation. I'm Justin Kinner with you here, Dayton's ESPN Radio. Paul Fritschner from the Rebound Rundown. Dayton Flyers, they're in action tonight. Wright State will be in action tomorrow. Xavier in action tonight. Cincinnati. We'll talk all about that coming up here with Paul Fritschner around the corner. Plus, the Red Hawks. I want to get into this Bruce Pearl thing because everyone hates Bruce Pearl, and I get that. And my take on this is not pro Bruce Pearl, but I do think that this Bearcats storyline is starting to have a stranglehold on common sense. Or it's really blocking out common sense. I think we are pushing so hard for that feel-good storyline that we're just using different logic for the Red Hawks versus what we do everyone else. If you remember a few years ago with the Bearcats, you know, if Ohio State played a close game against Purdue, we would sit there and say we would criticize them. If Alabama struggled against a bad SEC team, we would criticize them. But Cincinnati was struggling to beat crappy American teams, and we said, well, all that matters is that they win. And I feel like we're doing that with the Red Hawks. We're sitting here and we know how the NCAA tournament works. We know what logic is used. Not even logic, it's criteria. We know what criteria is used to put teams in the tournament. And I'm not saying that criteria is right or wrong, but we know what they use. So we know how this works, and yet we're just continuing to make our own set of little fluffy rules for Miami that we don't hold other teams to. And I'll get to that coming up. Paul Fritschner will join us, Rebound Rundown, around the corner as well. I want to close out this. I want to pick up with where we left off. I see some activity in the chat, some text coming in. If you're just joining us or missed it, ESPN's Adam Schefter, as well as other NFL insiders, have announced that the Cincinnati Bengals they're not going to slap the franchise tag on Trey Hendrickson. Now, some people have texted into the show saying, well, did you actually expect him to play for the Bengals? No, I did not. No, I did not. I did not expect them to slap the tag on him to force him to play for them. I did expect them, though, to do a tag and trade. I think when you're a team like the Bengals, who have so many holes, so many deficiencies, and you are a team that struggles to draft, I think you need as many draft picks as you could possibly get your hands on to help increase the probability that you hit on a few of them. You can't go in, you look at the amount of draft picks they have now. You can't just have those going into the draft if you have other opportunities to add to that total. This isn't a conversation about whether the Bengals have the money to spend or not. It doesn't matter. They are going to pretend as if they don't have the money to spend as far as that goes. So who knows? But the bottom line is I think that the Bengals screwed up with this. Now, there's different takes out there. Some fans are upset about this. Brian, what up, Brian? Brian says, I'm sure the Bengals tried to move him, but if you're not going to get a third or higher, why tag him? You're going to get a compensatory pick in 2027. Trey is attractive as a free agent, but not as much if you have to give up draft capital. I think I disagree from this front. If the Bengals had a solid defense and this elite offense, and you were going to lose Trey Hendrickson and you were going to get a compensatory pick in 2027, I would agree with you like crazy. Here's where I give you a little pushback, Brian. The Bengals, although that draft pick, that third-round pick will be nice in 2027, 2027 could have a much different vibe and feel if 2026 does not go well, which means a fourth-round pick in 2026 is more valuable than a third-round pick in 2027. I know that sounds kind of silly, but it's true. This team needs all the help that they can get in 2026. There's a lot of insiders out there that have come out and said that the noise about Joe Burrow not being happy in Cincinnati, that's not made up. Joe Burrow's not looking to leave Cincinnati heading into the 2026 season, but it's almost as if the Bengals are being put on an audition trial. They're being put on almost like, we're going to kind of force you to prove to him that you can get the job done, that you can continue to put winners around Joe Burrow. They have to audition for Joe Burrow that they can get the job done. So, Brian, to your point, yes, if we're talking about a normal team with a normal front office, I would say, well, absolutely, get that 2027 third-round compensatory pick. That makes sense. Maybe they weren't going to get a second or a first-round pick for Trey this year, but maybe they could have got a fourth-round pick this year. And to me, a fourth-round pick in 26 has more value than a third-round pick in 27 because everything you do from here until week 1, everything has to be done to the most extreme to guarantee or give you the best shot of putting a winner out on that football field. There is no more faith in this front office that they can get the job done, which means they can't leave any stone unturned. And to just let him go and say, well, we'll get something for him in 27. No, it doesn't. That to me is a mistake. As far as that goes. Chad weighed in and said, hell, I would have sent him to Detroit with the 5th rounder from Montgomery. Tobin is an idiot. Yeah, it didn't have to just be straight up, Trey Hendrickson, for a pick. You could have maneuvered another player of value in return at the same time and got creative with it. But that's the thing. Duke Tobin's not a creative individual. He's not, you know what I mean? Like he's not going to be able to weasel his way out of stuff. Andrew Berry may not be the best GM in football, but I've seen that guy do a lot more good than Duke Tobin has. I've seen him do a lot more good than Duke Tobin has. I mean, he's taken an aged Amari Cooper who led the league in drops and got a 3rd-round pick for him. But Duke Tobin, who has a top 5 pass rusher in the NFL, couldn't get anything? I'm not going to give him a pass. I'm not going to give Duke Tobin a pass. I think it's wrong. But, Brian, I agree with you almost to a certain point. Normal logic would say, yes, if you're going to get a 3rd-round pick next year, why take, a 4th or a 5th round this year? It's just because you need as many draft picks as you can for this draft. They need to get as many new additions to this roster as possible as far as that goes, but nonetheless. All right, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Because we weren't on yesterday, of course I come on today and they get they get Risner done. They get that deal done on a 1-year deal to keep. This is the first time in the Joe Burrow era that he will have the same offensive lineman in back-to-back seasons. I think this was a good deal. Look, the Bengals, they retained one of their best offensive linemen from last season. I don't think their offensive line was great last year, but it was definitely better than what it has been in recent years. Risner's a fan favorite. And the deal's worth, I think north of $5 million. Not guaranteed, but it's incentivized up to $5 million on a 1-year deal. Here's my only pushback on this. Are the Bengals capable of making any move that betters them for the long term? This is a 1-year deal. Everything's always in those short-term deals. The Bengals just don't want to marry anyone long-term. And it's how are you going to convince Joe Burrow that we're securing cornerstone pieces to build a winner long term? I think that's something that they have to consider as well. But I do like that they got this deal done early. This is an off season that they have money to spend. The offensive line's not perfect, but I don't think it has to be. They have money to spend, and they have so many deficiencies on defense. And it's going to be nice for Cincinnati to not have to use any of their draft capital on the O-line. Unless they want to draft an O-lineman for the future. That'll be something to talk about later. But I think that this draft is going to be used solely for improving this defense. And I think the one reason that they made sure to get this deal done with Risner so early is out of sight, out of mind. Get this deal done. All right, we know what our offensive line is. All right, we know what our offensive line is. We know who our 2 wide receivers are. We know who our quarterback is. All right, you know who your head coach is. They got that taken care of, and they made it clear we're not moving on from Zach Taylor. You don't have to like it, but they're eliminating question marks. Now the question marks on defense are what they could focus on when it comes to the draft and free agency. I'm fascinated to see what the Bengals do in free agency when it comes to this defense. Nonetheless, 937-518-1410. You can jump in on the chat or jump in by calling in to the show. But I do think that's a big deal, bringing back the same offensive line from last year, allowing, Mims and some of the other younger offensive linemen to take that next step in their progression process. I think that's going to be important. And just that, I think that there's a lot said just about some of that familiarity as well with a lot of the same guys up front. Seeing the same behinds in front of you, if you're Joe Burrow, for back-to-back seasons for the first time in your professional career, I think that's a big deal. And I think that continuity up front can go a long way and will go a long way as the Bengals try to position themselves for a run in 2026, nonetheless. All right. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show. We're going to talk some college basketball. We'll step away for a few moments, but again, there you go. The Bengals, Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals, no more. And that was the last remaining piece on the defensive side of the ball that stepped foot on the field for the Bengals in the Super Bowl years ago. It's a completely new era in Cincinnati moving forward. Big offseason, a lot of big offseason decisions still to be made, nonetheless. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 937-518-1410. Let's transition over to college basketball. All right, Wright State, Horizon League quarterfinal action tomorrow, or tournament action tomorrow. The Cleveland State at the Nutter Center will be giving away tickets. It'll be their final home game of the season. If they win that, they advance to the semifinals and will be 2 games away from getting back to the NCAA tournament. It would be the first NCAA tournament appearance in the Clint Sargent era. Clint Sargent just won Coach of the Year in the Horizon League. We'll talk about that with Paul Fritschner coming up here in a bit. But I want to talk about the Redhawks coming up. I think everyone right now has an opinion on the Miami Redhawks. They are the number 19th. They are the 19th ranked team in the country. They are 29-0. They're at home tonight with Toledo in town. You have Bruce Pearl weighing in, giving his thoughts on Miami. Everyone hates Bruce Pearl, so they're just throwing, the daggers at him. But is Bruce Pearl wrong? I know you don't like Bruce Pearl, but is Bruce Pearl wrong? I need you to do me a favor. I need you to try to just breathe and calm yourself. Strip away who said it and pay attention to what he said. Is he actually wrong? I think we're doing this thing right now where we're falling in love with the storyline and we're letting that cloud our judgment on what's right and wrong in this particular situation. I want to discuss more. I find Miami, I find this to be the biggest storyline in all of college basketball, not just because they're 29-0, but because of the hula hoops that the committee has to jump through to justify putting them in the tournament and ignoring all the metrics that you traditionally use to put a team in when it comes to at-large teams. We'll talk about that when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio.
The Justin Kinner Show, right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy real estate as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repair? Great, I'll buy it. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Would it be convenient for you if you could simply take what you wanted and leave the rest behind? Great, I'll buy it. I buy vacant properties, inherited homes, divorce situations, death in the family, apartment buildings, commercial properties. I even buy my tenants won't pay me the rent houses. Visit us today at TurboTrackRealty.com or give us a call and speak with one of our friendly staff members at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
Traffic and body pain can slow you down, but don't let the pain stop you. With just one pill, Aleve provides up to 12 hours of pain relief so you can keep moving. Use as directed.
Some foot issues just can't be fixed by those expensive shoe stores or shoe inserts. A foot exam from a doctor of podiatric medicine, who is the medical expert in foot and ankle care, may give solutions after doing a complete foot examination. If you suffer from foot, heel, or ankle pain, Let us help you find a member of the Ohio Foot and Ankle Medical Association so you know you are being treated by the very best. For more information or to find a member of the Ohio Foot and Ankle Medical Association near you, visit ohiofoot.org.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to A to Z Savings, our biggest sale of the year.
Happy to be here. Can I get some rotors?
Would you like brake pads with that?
How much are the brake pads?
Free with Duralast rotors.
Free. Really?
Really? Free.
I also need some oil.
Would you like an oil filter with that?
Yeah. How much is that?
Free with the oil.
Free. Really?
Really? Free. It's part of A to Z Savings with hundreds of deals.
From A to free.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Ends March 9th. Restrictions apply.
The NCAA First Four is back at the epicenter of college basketball. The excitement tips off Selection Sunday, March 15th, with two family-friendly events. Lace up for the big hoopla 4-miler at Wright State University, and then bring the family to the free STEM challenge at our brand new, exciting location, the Nutter Center. It all leads to the NCAA First Four at UD Arena, March 17th and 18th. The First Four, Dayton and the big hoopla. Details at DaytonHoopla.com.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/game. That's ethos.com/game. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
The Justin Kinner Show. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show. Right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
Well, it's officially March, which means the madness is not too far off in the distance. How about the First Four? That'll tip off the NCAA tournament here in Dayton once again. 17th and 18th. How about that? Selection Sunday on the 15th, not too far off in the distance. And a lot of teams from an at-large perspective still trying to do their final touch-ups, if you will, heading into the final weeks of the season. Some teams, the regular season's already done. Wright State wrapped up their regular season over the weekend with the come-from-behind win at the, as time expired against Northern Kentucky on the road. I know that call and that highlight kind of made its way around college basketball just to kind of set the tone heading into March. Wright State finishes the season with 20 wins. They finished the regular season as Horizon League champs. And of course, they had a lot of awards that came down the pike yesterday, including Clint Sargent, who in only year 2 with Wright State was named the Horizon League Coach of the Year. And good for him. I'm telling you what, when you think of like college basketball today, it's all about veteran players. It's all about experience. The teams that are having the most success, it's older, experienced players. And it was interesting because one of the other awards that came down yesterday, Kellen Pickett, who's a true freshman, won the Horizon League Freshman of the Year. I don't even know if he's the best freshman on his team, and that's not a shot at him. That's just how good Michael Cooper is. Michael Cooper has been so good for the Raiders this year that everyone keeps taking shots at Wright State, saying enjoy him while you have him, because everyone believes he's going to be playing in the Big Ten next season. That's how good Michael Cooper is, who was named, of course, to the All Horizon League Freshman team as well, along with Kellen Pickett. Kellen Pickett wins Freshman of the Year. And again, you get TJ Birch, who wins Defensive Player of the Year, Horizon League first team. This was his first real season of college basketball. He transferred from Ball State, and he, according to Ken Palm, I think about 6 steals a game. The kid's unbelievable defensively. I mean, so to win the league with a bunch of first and second year players, 2 of your best players are true freshmen, in only year 2 as head coach for Wright State. I think Clint Sargent's a hell of a coach. And, I've talked with him a lot over the years, even going back to when he was an assistant, but he lost a lot of games last year in year 1. No one took those losses harder than he did, and no one deserves the coach of the year more than he does this season. To see the way him and his staff just kind of totally changed how they operate and just kind of pivoted, I think this is a fun team, and they have a chance tomorrow to get back to Indianapolis in the Final Four on Monday and the championship on Tuesday in the Horizon League. Wright State looking to punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament for the first time in the Clint Sargent era. But again, they still have to win 3 more games to do that. Their next game tomorrow night, we'll have that game for you right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. with Cleveland State in town tomorrow. If you want tickets for that, text Raiders on a first-come, first-served basis while supplies last. We'll be able to get you tickets to tomorrow night's Horizon League tournament game at the Nutter Center. Text Raiders to 937-518-1410, and you'll be entered to win tickets to the game tomorrow night. But again, Wright State, Cleveland State tomorrow. I want to stay in the college basketball conversation. Of course, the rankings came out, the updated rankings, the AP Top 25 came out yesterday. And, there's the Red Hawks. There's Miami of Ohio. They're 29-0. They moved up 2 spots. They're 19th in the country. They're ahead of John Calipari's Arkansas team. They're ahead of St. Mary's, Miami, the U, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. St. Louis remains in the top, despite getting punched in the mouth by Dayton. St. Louis remains in the top 25 out of the A10. St. Louis, again, is another feel-good story this year in college basketball. For a while, I still think St. Louis, for a stretch, looked like the best A10 team since the 2020 Dayton Flyers. I don't know why Dayton fans, you had to get into this weird protective, you got really protective of that. Don't ever compare this team to the 2020 Dayton Flyers again. I don't think anyone said that this team, the St. Louis team, was better than the 2020 Dayton Flyers. I think the narrative that everyone was talking about was this St. Louis team is so good. It's actually the best team that the A10 has had since the 2020 Dayton Flyers. Not everything has to be, oh, we're coming for you type of thing. Stop, wipe the tears and focus on where your team is at right now. Dayton's playing good basketball. We'll talk about them more coming up in a moment. But St. Louis comes in at 25. But I want to talk about Miami, the Red Hawks. They're 29-0, and they're defying logic across the board. In today's college basketball, college athletics climate, this is about not even the big schools anymore. This is about big banks, big dollars. And Miami of Ohio, they don't like to be called that, but the Red Hawks, their NIL isn't horrible, but let's stop acting like their NIL and Big 10, Big East, Big 12, SEC, ACC. Let's not pretend like their NIL is anywhere near that, which makes what they're doing so impressive. But their dollars may not be the same as what those other schools are spending, but those other schools are spending a lot of dollars, and they're playing a lot of really good teams. And Miami of Ohio is not playing a lot of really good teams. Like, let's use Dayton as an example. Okay. I've always said that Dayton, actually, I think it's a lot harder to be the head coach of the Dayton Flyers than it is of a team in the Power Four. Because in the Power Four, you can schedule tough teams in November, December. You could stub your toe along the way and not play great. But you're going to have a ton of opportunities come January, February, because conference play arrives, and you're going to have quad 1, quad 2 opportunities galore. Top 25 opportunities galore. You can make up for a bad November, December, and January, February. If you're Dayton, you have to be perfect in November, December just to put yourself in the at-large conversation, but then your job becomes harder than Ohio State's and everyone else's. Because look how bad Ohio State's been this year. I shouldn't say bad, but look how average Ohio State has been this year. They upset Purdue over the weekend, and all of a sudden, they're back to a bubble team. They're back to the first four conversation. They're back to an at-large conversation. Look how many losses they have. They don't have to be perfect in January, February. Dayton does, because Dayton doesn't play good enough teams to justify an off week. Ohio State can lose to bad teams in the Big Ten, but because they get to beat up on the Purdues and the Illinois, and those opportunities present themselves, they can climb up and win their way back into the conversation. Dayton can't. So Dayton is playing some of the best basketball in the country right now, but because they had a bad week, 2-week stretch when they were injured and just not playing good basketball, there's no recovering from that. So now Dayton has to win the A10 tournament. And it's because we use the same logic for Dayton that we do for all the other Power 4 teams. Dayton, you have to get quad 1, quad 2 opportunities. You can't squander them. You may get more than some, but you're not getting enough to justify keeping you in the at-large conversation. So Dayton's out of the at-large conversation because there's just not enough. They don't play good enough teams down the. They're playing good teams, but not good enough teams to warrant putting them back in that bubble conversation. So why is it that we can use NCAA tournament logic for Dayton, but we have to ignore that same logic for Miami? Now, Miami's undefeated, and if they win their conference tournament, which I think that is the most boring outcome ever, I want chaos. I don't want Miami to win the MAC. I want Miami to get knocked out. I do want Miami to, this sounds mean, and it's not, just relax for you sensitive folk out there. I just like chaos, and I really want to see what the committee does. I want a loss in the regular season, and I don't want them to win the MAC championship. I want, after them being in the top 25 for about, 70% of this season, I want them with 2 losses in the committee to look at a top 25 team for the majority of the season and say, hey, with suffering only 1 or 2 losses, you're not good enough to get it. I want to see them actually pull the trigger on it. But we just talked about Dayton. We don't like that Dayton's not in the at-large conversation, but we understand it because we understand how college basketball works. So I know I'm doing a sports talk show in a city that comprehends and knows their college basketball. So why is it that a lot of you who really know your college basketball pretend to not know a damn thing about college basketball when we talk about the logic of the Red Hawks? Bruce Pearl, who I get is not everyone's favorite coach. I completely get it. But I don't think Bruce Pearl said anything that is that controversial. He just said something you disagreed with, so automatically, oh, there's something in it for him. He's saying it because of his son and blah, 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 blah. Bruce Pearl said 2 things, okay? And, of course, awful announcing on X or Twitter, they only clipped one of these scenarios that he talked about and framed it as if he's saying this. Bruce Pearl said there's 2 different ways of logic to approach this Miami Redhawks season. He said, if you're the committee and you approach it as who's the most deserving, Bruce Pearl said Miami deserved to be in the at-large NCAA tournament conversation. He said, but if it's based on the best teams in the country, based on the logic of who you play matters, he said they're not one of the best teams in the country. I don't necessarily want to say that I agree with him saying that they're not one of the best teams in the country. I agree with Bruce Pearl when he was framing it in regards to if we are going to hold them to the same standard that we do all the other teams when it comes to how we build the NCAA tournament. And I don't care if you disagree with how they build it. We know how they build it. And how they build it, Miami's schedule does not complement that. You know, I remember when Wright State played, when the Redhawks came to Dayton and played Wright State back in November or December, whenever it was, Jim Brown, love him. But Jim Brown on the broadcast, all he specifically kept stating is their undefeated mark at that point, they were like 11 or 12-0. He goes, it's very impressive that they're undefeated at, this far into the season. But I do think that who they play matters. And I think that context should be included in it, because when you think about a MAC team in November, December, when you think about anyone that plays in the MAC or the Horizon or others, you go pull up their schedule. You're going to see a lot of Power 4 opponents on that schedule. Miami didn't play any of those teams. They didn't play anybody. I don't care that nobody wanted to schedule them. They didn't play any of those teams. So their fault or not, they didn't have a strong non-conference resume. Even the last I checked, their strength of schedule still sits at 320th in the country. 319 teams have played tougher schedules than the Redhawks. That doesn't mean that it's a farce that they're 29-0, because to be honest, then why didn't team 318, 317, and 316? Why do they not have a dominant record? Just because you play a weak schedule doesn't mean you're guaranteed wins, which is why it's impressive what Miami is doing. But that's not how this works. There are great, everything is separated into quad 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. And those wins matter. That's a weighted thing that they do to weight everyone's schedule, to weight everyone's success on the floor, whether you like it or not. That's how it's done. So why are we sitting here with Miami and throwing all of that out the window? Oh, their schedule, they've played literally nobody. Oh, who cares? They're still a good story. Oh, they're struggling. I mean, guys, like, for instance, if Ohio State, who is trying to fight their way on the bubble, what if Ohio State only won 69-67 against Western Michigan? What if Ohio State only won 86-77 against UMass? You know what I mean? Like, what if Ohio State only won 73-71 against Buffalo? What if they only won 86-84 at home against UMass? Like, I'm not discrediting Miami. All I'm saying is if we're going to play by the rules that everyone else does, what would be considered, if we're going to say Miami's officially at the table with all the big boys, you can't sit there and continue to give them a kid's meal while everyone else has to pay more money off the adult menu. I'm sorry. I'm not saying Miami is not an at-large team. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just tired of everyone getting really protective of them as if Bruce Pearl's the devil because he said he doesn't believe that they should get an at-large opportunity unless they win the MAC tournament. And I disagree. I'm not saying I even necessarily agree with it, but he's using the logic of how the NCAA tournament works. If you haven't played anybody and you haven't beaten anybody of substance and you're struggling to beat bad teams, although they are winning, they're the only team in the country that the NCAA tournament committee would overlook that stuff for if they don't win their conference tournament. There's a reason teams are being pressured into blowing teams out. Hey, we have this in the bag. We're up 18 with 4 minutes to go. We're going to keep our starters in because we got to get this up to 25 points, 30 points. We got to run this team off the floor because those metrics matter. But not for Miami. We throw those metrics out the door. Imagine any other team in the at-large conversation struggling to hold off a Western Michigan, hold off a Buffalo, hold off a UMass, not once but twice. Again, you're hearing, oh man, Kinner's crapping on Miami. I'm not. All I'm saying is I think they're a great I'm a big mid-major basketball fan. All right. If Wright State was in this particular situation, I'd be saying the same thing. Not really saying that, oh, I don't think that this should be in. I would be saying, hey, I understand the concerns and the criticisms from those on the outside looking in. That's all. But I don't think Bruce Pearl was as wrong and off as what a lot of you want to make him out to be. So I'm just saying as far as that goes. But either way, Miami, I want them in the tournament, but I want chaos. I do want them to lose one of their regular season games, and I want them to lose in the MAC tournament because I want to see if the committee's going to put them in. This reminds me of the Bearcats years ago when, remember, in football, and I wanted chaos to happen that year, and I wanted the committee to look at an undefeated top 25 Cincinnati Bearcat team that won the American Championship. This is before they moved to the Big 12. I wanted the committee to look at them and say, we know you're undefeated. We know you're top 25. We know you're conference champions. We know you have NFL talent on this roster, but you haven't played anybody. So we're going to take a 2-loss Ohio State team and put them in over you. Now, Ohio State ended up getting a 3rd loss that season, so it made it super easy for the committee. It wasn't even controversial to put Cincinnati in because you're not going to put a 3-loss team in over an undefeated team at that point. But, man, what if Ohio State would have only been a 2-loss team? Ohio State would have gone in over that undefeated team. I would have loved to see the panic and everything else. It's kind of like Notre Dame this year. Notre Dame, there is logic used to keep them out of the playoff. Yes, you had really good wins, but you had 2 really bad losses, no conference tournament. That criteria matters, and that's what kept Notre Dame out of the college football playoff. And, again, we can have a whole show about what we like and don't like about the criteria used for the college football playoff, and we could do a whole show on what you like and don't like about the criteria used for the NCAA tournament. But the point is, we're using a certain criteria to keep Dayton out of the at-large conversation. We're using the same criteria to really force Ohio State to have to be perfect the rest of the way, not even win the Big Ten tournament, but they have to get some. That criteria is being used across the board. But for Miami, we're just supposed to ignore it. I'm sorry, guys. I can't get on board with that. Bruce Pearl, you don't have to like him. You don't have to agree with his political stances. You don't have to agree with his take on Miami necessarily. But guys, I don't think it's that deep. I don't think he's just trying to defend Auburn because his son's the coach at Auburn and they're on the bubble. I don't think what he said changes whether Auburn's on the bubble or not. And also, he wasn't using his mic time to go, and I got to say something about Miami. He was asked about it. He answered it. Nonetheless, I find it funny. You could disagree with Bruce Pearl, but I saw, where is this tweet? I saw Dick Vitale. Dick Vitale said that he put this on Twitter a little bit ago. It should not even be a debate about 29-0 Miami of Ohio basketball as to whether they should be a part of March Madness if they do not win the MAC tournament. Come on, Dick Vitale. You're speaking from you're letting your emotions get in the way. Like, Dick Vitale will forget more basketball than I'll ever know. But why are minds like his and others pretending to not comprehend how this works? You know how college basketball works. You know how the NCAA tournament works. We know how this works, and yet somehow, some way, there's no way that we should be debating whether Miami should be in or not. Yet if you use the criteria that is used for every other team that's not a major story in college basketball, yes, there's a way. To be clear here, I want Miami in. I can't wait to watch Miami. and see where they're placed on Selection Sunday. And I hope they're placed on Selection Sunday. I'm also excited to see if they don't get placed on Selection Sunday, what the chaos is going to be if that's the case. But you have basketball minds like Dick Vitale saying there is absolutely no debate as whether they should be a part of March Madness if they don't win the MAC tournament. No debate. He says that the metrics used to define who should qualify as at-large teams is one-sided and favors mediocrity. So there you go. You're saying you disagree with the metrics that are used. I agree. I think the metrics are kind of stupid with that, but those are the metrics that are used. So that's where my opinion is based off of. My opinion is based off knowing how it works. This is why I agree with those who are a little bit more critical of Miami than others, because we all are basketball people. This is Dayton. I love working here because I'm a college basketball nut and I love college basketball. And this is a college basketball city. All of my listeners comprehend college basketball. So to sit here and read Dick Vitale's tweet and have all of you say, I agree with Dick Vitale, there's no way we should be debating whether they should be in without winning the tournament. Come on. Have I given you guys too much credit? You guys know college basketball. You know how it works. There's a reason that Dayton is only going to make the tournament this year if they win the A-10 tournament. And you guys have accepted that. You understand it because you understand college basketball. You may not like it, but you understand it. You need to have that same thought process when it comes to the Red Hawks. 937-518-1410. Hour 2 next.
The Justin Kinner Show. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
I'm U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. The sound of a seatbelt. It's one of the most important sounds in our car. It means everyone is ready and everyone is safe. The more our kids see us put on our seatbelts, the more natural it is for them to put theirs on too. Make it a priority. Buckle up every time. Hear the sound? Make it a habit.
Paid for by NHTSA.
Raise your hand if you're excited about feeling older faster than you should. No takers? Yeah, didn't think so. Ongoing pain makes you feel older than you are. But here's the good news. QC Kinetic patients here in Dayton are getting relief, feeling younger, jumping back into life full speed, and it didn't happen in an operating room. The QC Kinetic medical professionals use the latest regenerative treatments backed by real science, treatments that take the tiny, powerful healing tools inside your body, concentrate them right where you need relief. That's how Mike is training for a marathon instead of giving up running. Patrick's golf game is on fire again. Kathy walked around Disney with her grandkids. No pain. All real QC Kinetic patients. The sooner you start treatment, the sooner inflammation eases and the sooner joint damage slows down. Because no one signs up for feeling older faster. Find out if you're a candidate for QC Kinetic regenerative treatments. Your visit and consultation is free. 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325.
You have empty office space to fill or home office to create. You know what you need. You know what you'd like. But you also have a pretty good idea after you've shopped around the usual places. What you need and what you like might not happen. Well, then you haven't been to Charles Larick's Warehouse Outlet. Nobody has their selection. Nobody has their discounts. And every week, there's something new. If you need office furniture, Larick's Warehouse Outlet can sell it to you for half the price and below manufacturer selected prices. Half price and below on hundreds of items. From budget to the best. From desks to filing cabinets. Before you go anywhere else, do yourself a favor and come to Larick's Warehouse Outlet. With 25,000 square feet of selection, you're not going to want to go anywhere else. Larick's Warehouse Outlet at 23 Mac Oil Avenue in Dayton. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. Larick's, continuing the tradition.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, hour number 2. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Paul Fritschner from the Rebound Rundown. He's going to join us coming up here in about 20 minutes. We'll talk about Wright State winning the Horizon League outright. They'll tip off Horizon League tournament action tomorrow night at the Nutter Center. Seeing a lot of texts come in right now. Appreciate everyone who's reaching out. if you want tickets to tomorrow night's Wright State, Cleveland State Horizon League tournament game, Wright State's the 1 seed. They're the favorites. To win the Horizon League, to get to the NCAA tournament, it doesn't mean that they're going to win it. They are viewed as the favorites. They were the regular season champions. Of all the changes to college basketball in recent years, one of the ones that really disappoints me the most, I know a lot of you don't really value the NIT, but if you're a mid-major team, the NIT did mean something. I mean, that was a bigger postseason tournament. It wasn't the CBI. It wasn't one of those that aren't really well respected, right? And a lot of you who it's the NCAA or bust didn't truly value the NIT, but there was at least something for mid-majors who, and again, we spent a lot of time on this today. We talked a lot about the criteria and to be an at-large team. You could be a really, really good mid-major team, be a really good regular season team, make a run in your conference tournament and get upset. And then what was the purpose of winning the regular season? You would at least have the NIT to fall back on. You would get the auto bid to the NIT. That's been taken off the board. So this conference tournament game tomorrow for Wright State, it's like, man, you've been the best team in your conference all season. You dominated your conference. You won by multiple games. Swept so many of these awards. I mean, you had the defensive player of the year, you had the freshman of the year, you had multiple players on the all freshman team, you had TJ Birch on the first team, Amara Bay on the second team. I mean, you had, Cooper, you had so many players get recognized yesterday, coach of the year. And if you get upset tomorrow, that's it. Your season's just done. So I think of all the changes in college basketball in recent years, the most disappointing to me has been the taking away the auto bid to the NIT. I think that's really disappointing as far as that goes. You had mid-majors that wanted to play in that. Now you're taking some of these, 15, 16 win teams from these Power 4 conferences and saying, hey, we know you fell short of your NCAA tournament goal. Here's an NIT invite, and they turn it down. I think the NIT looks way worse when you have so many teams rejecting an NIT offer instead of teams that would flourish for the opportunity to play in the NIT, but that's besides the point. But Wright State, to get to the NCAA tournament, they'll tip off their tournament run tomorrow against Cleveland State. Text Raiders to 937-518-1410. Text Raiders to 937-518-1410. And while supplies last, we'll give you tickets to tomorrow's game. So get that taken care of now. Raiders, 937-518-1410. Talking about Miami right now, I got a lot of text during the break that said, well, I didn't realize you were such a Redhawks hater. I know it came across that way. I'm not hating on the Redhawks. I don't think I've ever watched more Miami basketball than I have this season. I think, we carry Wright State basketball in our station. Dayton, the Flyers, play in this city that I do a show on. If you combine the amount of segments on Wright State and Dayton Flyers basketball that I've done this year, it doesn't even come close to the amount of time I've talked about the Redhawks. So I totally disagree for anyone out there that thinks I'm hating. I'm just saying I disagree with those that think that it's unquestionable to sit here and wonder if Miami deserves to be in the NCAA tournament if they don't win their conference tournament. Most mid-majors have to play high major programs in the non-con. Now, a lot of those are called bye games. Now, some conferences, like for instance, the Horizon League, and I think that number is going up. I have to confirm this, but the Horizon League that Wright State plays in, they mandate that every team in their conference has to play a bye game. Now, I find the bye game discussion interesting because I think the bye game is smart. A lot of coaches don't like the bye games because, you go on the road and you take your ass whooping and then you get your check and you try to rebound the team's confidence and, pick up where you left off before that bye game. But, conferences are kind of mandating, these mid-major conferences some of them are mandating it because, what can these conferences do to help increase the opportunity for their teams to maybe be in the at-large conversation? So many mid-majors, everyone's saying, well, they're not playing good enough schedules in November, December to justify putting them in. So some of these conferences are mandating it just to help increase the chance. You pull off an upset November, December, you have a really good November, December, dominate your conference. Well, now you have a good quality win that you could potentially put yourself in position for the at-large conversation. Miami doesn't have that at all. Miami hasn't played anyone with the pulse, as far as a team that would have weight in the at-large conversation. They opened up the season against Old Dominion. They played Trinity, a non-D1 school out of Illinois. They played Mercyhurst. Arkansas Pine Bluff, UNC Greensboro, IU East, another non-D1 school. Maine, UNC Asheville, Eastern Kentucky. They played Milligan. I mean, I think they won a mulligan on that one. Now, they won 135-81. That's a great score, but come on. You know what I mean? And then you get to MAC play. MAC's a good mid-major conference. I love the MAC. I think there's so many really cool regional rivalries there that put the MAC on the map. When you talk about Miami and Ohio, the Bobcats and the Redhawks, I love that rivalry matchup right there. You obviously have Toledo and Bowling Green. When Toledo and Miami go head-to-head, that's a big deal. The Ohio teams, in fact, tonight, Toledo at Miami later on tonight, by the way. So that's a big one right there. That's 7 o'clock on ESPN+. Big games, and then Miami closes out the regular season at Ohio. The point is, you can't sit here and look at that non-conference schedule, and Wright State, honestly, is the best team that they played in the non-con. And I think Wright State's a good team. But if you mean to tell me when the committee is combing through the resume for Miami of Ohio, if they end up not winning the MAC tournament, hey, I see a ton of wins on your resume, but I don't see any wins with weight. Your best win is, yes, the Horizon League champion Wright State Raiders, but a lot of you don't like to give Wright State credit around here. But it's funny how a lot of you will all of a sudden give a ton of credit to Wright State when you talk about Miami and say, what do you mean they beat a conference champion in Wright State? When a lot of you have tried to, throw water and shade on any of the happy posts or anything I've made about the school. So it's only the Horizon. What are we doing here? You guys comprehend college basketball. You know how this works. So for Dick Vitale to come out and say there should not even be a debate about 29-0 Redhawks as to whether they should be a part of March Madness if they do not win the MAC tournament, I think it is a debate. I think it's a good debate, and I think it's a fair one. I think Bruce Pearl, his points about Miami, the problem is you just don't like his points. He's not wrong. The only part I disagree with him on is when he says that they're not one of the best teams in the country. I don't know about that. But as far as how the committee puts an NCAA tournament bracket together, they use the net rankings. The net rankings matter. The quad 1 and 2 opportunities. Miami has nothing there. There's nothing. There is no resume bullet points to support Miami being a lock to get into the NCAA tournament if they don't win their conference tournament. Nonetheless, but either way, we're talking about Dayton a little bit ago. Jesse, what up, Jesse? Jesse says if the Flyers beat VCU twice in a week, plus a win tonight and another random win in the A-10 tournament, and they barely lose to St. Louis, they're definitely on the bubble. VCU is on the bubble right now. Yeah, VCU's on the bubble right now. Dayton got punched in the mouth by VCU on the road a few weeks ago. That was also around that same stretch that they got beat by 30 against St. Louis. But they rebounded with Dayton's won, 5-6 straight now? They punched St. Louis in the mouth in the rebound game, right? If they punch VCU in the mouth, it almost works against Dayton in this situation because VCU, who's a bubble team, you punch VCU in the mouth, it kind of weakens them, and it's not as impressive of who knows what's going to happen. Dayton's not getting an at-large opportunity this year. They're just not. Dayton's only chance to get to the NCAA tournament is to win the A-10 tournament. And I'm using them as an example. A lot of you are annoyed with that. That's why Anthony Grant's, a lot of you think his seat is hot because, they should be getting at-large opportunities. They shouldn't have to win the A-10 tournament to get there. Their inability to win consistently enough in games that matter, or heck, even in games that don't, is why Dayton has continuously failed in accomplishing the at-large goals. But the reason they fail those at-large goals is because they don't do the things that are required to be an at-large team, which means you as fans comprehend what those things are. When you criticize Anthony Grant, you are telling me that you comprehend what is expected out of college basketball teams to be in the at-large conversation. So you can't be like that and then turn around and look at Miami and say, well, I know they haven't beaten anybody of substance. I know their strength of schedule ranks, 320th? 319 teams in the country have played tougher schedules than Miami. We understand all of that. But yet, we're supposed to overlook that because they're a great story? Look, they win the conference tournament. All this is a moot point anyways. But, man, can you imagine if they don't win that conference tournament? I think it's going to be the most watched Selection Sunday with all the drama surrounding the Redhawks. I think that's going to be one of the biggest storylines in college basketball. It already is. But who knows what's going to happen at the end of the day. 937-518-1410. Let's go to Bellbrook. We got Mo waiting on us. Mo, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Just want to jump into the Miami Red Hawks debate here.
Yep.
I agree with kind of with both Pearl and when he says some of the stuff about that should be a debate, but if they go 31-0 on the regular season, they're getting in unless even with a loss, unless they get absolutely smoked by somebody in their tournament, and that's not going to happen. So, I think that's what Vital was basically saying. He said it shouldn't be a question. If they win 31 games in a row, it's so difficult to do that, and he knows because he's been covering college basketball for so long.
And he's coached. He coached the mid-major level, too, at Detroit back in the day. So he knows how tough it is just from his coaching days, Mo. You're right.
And I would add to some of these coaches that think, well, what Miami's done because they don't play anybody. I doubt that any one of those teams could go in and go into that conference and win every single game. They would have one game where they weren't up for it, the kids weren't into it, and they would lose. If you look at a lot of the top teams, they have bad losses sometimes against bad teams. So to go undefeated and never make a mistake is so difficult to do that they almost have to get in unless they would absolutely get smoked by a 20-point or 25-point loss, and we know that's not going to happen. So, that I agree with both a little bit.
Yeah.
But they're getting in.
No, so to your point, and I'm glad you brought that up because it does sound like I'm saying that what they're doing is unimpressive. Oh my gosh. Even if they lose tonight to Toledo, it does not nullify what they've accomplished to this point. I mean, 29-1 when we're in the first week of March, I don't care. That's still beyond impressive. Everything they've done is impressive. I agree with you 100%. However, there's not a metric, though, when it comes to putting it, when you're building the NCAA tournament bracket, there's not an asterisk metric that allows you to overlook all those other things. I guess that was my counter argument to, do I think Miami, should they be in? I would love to see them in, but I would understand if they were left out because that's just not the metrics don't support them being in based on that. But I think you and I are saying the same thing, but also being aware of the fact that, hey, if the committee doesn't put them in, they would be justified in doing so based on the criteria that they use to build out that bracket.
Yeah, well, I think getting back to Vital's point, it is so difficult to go undefeated in a season, no matter where you're playing. I mean, Miami went to that Michigan game, and they brought in an outdoor ball basically against Miami. They weren't using a real basketball, and Miami couldn't hit a lick in that game, and that made it close. The stuff when you get this high level, you've won that many games, everybody is shooting for you, and they want to be the team to knock you down. So they get on ESPN. They're trying all kinds of stuff, and Vital knows that. He knows how you really are a great team if you can get through a whole season undefeated and with 31 wins. And I think that's what Vital's saying.
Mo, I appreciate the call. Well, who's your college basketball team?
Well, usually I follow the Flyers. I like Wright State too. I went to Wright State, so I watch them. I've not been a Red Hawks fan, but hey, I've been watching them just like you now. And honestly, they're a much, much better team than people think they are. If you get them in the first or second round in the NCAA tournament, if they're there, you're going to have a problem because they can all shoot, and they don't care who's shooting the ball. So they pass the ball around well, and they all shoot a high percentage, and they can shoot free throws. So I'm just saying, maybe they don't get in. I doubt it. But if they get in, good luck to the team playing them.
Mo, I appreciate your opinion. I appreciate your call, and I look forward to talking to you soon, okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
937-518-1410. ESPN's Joe Lunardi put out his latest bracketology. He updated it earlier this morning at 9 a.m. And, as of right now, Ohio State has played their way back onto the bubble. In fact, for those who follow the first four, he has Santa Clara as an 11 seed going up against Ohio State as an 11 seed. in a first four matchup. How cool would that be? New Mexico and Indiana, he has playing in the other first four matchup in the 11 seeds. Find that to be fascinating right there. Good stuff. As far as Wright State is concerned, he has Wright State seeded as a 15 seed going up against Michigan State in the first round. That would be interesting. Wright State beat Michigan State back in the day, I think it was the year two. I think the last time the Big Ten won a national championship was back in the year 2000. The last team to win a national championship out of the Big Ten was, of course, Michigan State back in 2000. And that very year, they lost to Wright State at the Nutter Center that year. Last time a Big Ten team played at the Nutter Center, for obvious reasons, as far as that's concerned. But continuing to go down the list, I got earlier. I said, Miami, they're an 8 seed. That's the Hurricanes. Joe Lunardi has the Hurricanes as an 8 seed. No one cares about the Hurricanes. That's for sure. But as far as the Redhawks are concerned, how about this one? This would be a fun matchup. So ESPN's Joe Lunardi has the Kentucky Wildcats as a 6 seed going up against Miami as an 11 seed. My thing is this. If you're going to have Miami as an 11 seed, put their asses in the first four. Can you imagine in an 11 versus 11, Redhawks versus Buckeyes, Miami of Ohio against Ohio State in the first four at UD Arena? Can you imagine how massive that would be? That would be huge. That would be something nonetheless. But Joe Lunardi does have the Redhawks as an 11 seed in his latest bracketology report. Jesse on Facebook, said if Miami wins out, where do you seed them? To be honest, I don't know what the ceiling for a seed would be if Miami wins out. I mean, you're talking about 31-0 with 34-0 heading into the NCAA tournament, undefeated regular season, conference champion. I mean, I think they would still remain a double-digit seed. I don't see that. I mean, maybe a 9 at the highest. I'd be surprised if they got up to that 9 line. Either way. But what do you guys think? I mean, maybe I think a 10 could potentially be the ceiling for Miami as far as that's concerned if they win out, nonetheless. But good stuff right there. As far as the first four out teams who are just on the outside looking in, Auburn, which of course is what led to the controversy with Bruce Pearl's comments, because he's kind of, advocating, if Miami gets in as a bubble team, like if they lose a game or if they finish the regular season undefeated and lose in the conference tournament, they would, most likely get in as an at-large team, which means they would be a bubble team, which means they would potentially bump out Auburn, which is why the controversy kind of began, or a lot of people were speculating that Bruce Pearl's comments were based on that. That could impact his son's team and his former team in Auburn. But Auburn is, on the bubble, just on the outside looking in. San Diego State, Virginia Tech, and the team that Dayton will play on Friday, VCU at UD Arena. Dayton may not be able to play their way into an at-large conversation, but they could put the dagger in the resume of VCU coming up this weekend. How cool would that be? So, look, it's March, chaos, it's all here. How about Miami tonight at home against Toledo, a 7 o'clock tip-off? How about that? Pretty cool stuff. Okay, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio, 937-518-1410. I'll read more of your text and responses in the chat. We'll get to we'll wrap up some of your calls, and then Paul Fritschner is going to join us around the corner as well. More of the Justin Kinner Show here on a Tuesday when we come back.
The Justin Kinner Show. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
The forecast has a flood watch in effect until 1 p.m. Wednesday. Overnight, rain and 44. Rain and 60 Wednesday and Thursday. More rain and 68. I'm Rick Schremp for 1410 ESPN Radio.
1410 Wing AM, Dayton's ESPN Radio, powered by...
Accountability in elections isn't partisan, and in Ohio, Republican and Democrat teams work together to create confidence in every election result. Ohio's elections are accurate, accountable, and accessible, always. So make your plan to vote at voteohio.gov.
Hi, this is Michael, your service manager at Dave Arbogast Buick GMC in Troy, Ohio. I am inviting you to give us an opportunity to earn your business. We have expanded our hours to better meet your needs. We are now open until 6 p.m. during the week and 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Saturdays. We service all makes and models. We offer convenient shuttle service as well as pickup and delivery. Please visit us on the web at arbogastbuickgmc.com or in person. Exit 69 on I-75. Look for the giant American flag. I hope to see you soon.
Trying to keep up with today's fast-changing digital landscape? With more ways to consume content than ever before, it is getting harder to reach your customers. You need more than just a presence. You need the experts at Conrex Digital. We craft websites that convert. We curate engaging content on social and block channels. We generate quality leads through Google and Meta. We dominate your competition on streaming TV. Bold marketing, real results. Conrex Digital makes it happen. Visit conrexdigital.com. That's conrexdigital.com.
When you're vacationing in your RV, there are some things you can always count on. Taking the kayaks out on the lake, hot dogs on the grill, and your sister's boyfriend pulling out his acoustic guitar.
Everyone quiet! Harrison's playing. Wow, you're so good, Harrison.
With Progressive, your RV is protected 24/7, so you're prepared for whatever you don't see coming. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in D.C.
Jackson Hewitt handles your taxes and your stress. Inhale on no surprise price of $149 or less. Exhale, paying more for complicated taxes. You won't. Inhale, new tax law knowledge. Exhale, missing out on your biggest refund? Certainly not. Don't miss paying $149 or less. Rest easy. Jackson Hewitt's got your taxes. Guaranteed. Limited time offer for new clients on federal terms. Participating locations and rate terms at jacksonhewitt.com/149.
When production shifts, your workforce has to keep up. Express Employment Professionals is your best resource for hiring. Find your local team at expresspros.com and hire differently.
He's a husband, a dad, owner of a gym. He's also a police officer. Staying strong and pain-free isn't optional. It's safety. That's why David Boardman's a QC Kinetics patient.
My job is dependent on my physical ability and my physical fitness so that I can protect myself, so that I can go home safe to my family at the end of the night.
But severe knee pain nearly took that away. Doctors said surgery, shut down the workouts. David needed another option. That was QC Kinetics. They told him,
we're going to give you the opportunity to have not one, but 2 healthy knees, and we don't have to cut you open.
They used David's own healing tools in his blood to help restore his knees. Regenerative treatments right in the office.
Since I've gone to them, I run 20, 30 miles a week.
Trust the team helping active people avoid surgery. Call QC Kinetics today for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325. 937-936-0325.
KTH Parts Industries in St. Paris is now hiring facilities industrial electricians. Do you have this specialized skill? This person must have a 2-year electrical degree or journeyman electrician card, knowledge in industrial electrical equipment, great communication skills, willing to work overtime, weekends, and shutdowns as needed. HVAC or plumbing experience is a plus. KTH offers excellent benefits, including medical, dental, and 401k. Apply today and be valued by a company that sincerely cares about you. Apply online at KTH.net, an equal opportunity employer.
Do you or someone you know need a driver's license? Sign up now to get your testing completed at our Moraine Auto Title location. Hi, I'm Shannon Crabtree from the Montgomery County Clerk of Courts Office. Clerk Foley is proud to team up with the Ohio BMV to be a designated testing location, perfect for new drivers in southern Montgomery County. Schedule your driving skills test now on the Ohio BMV website. Choose a location at 5552 North Springboro Pike. Testing fees apply. We even have weekend hours to accommodate your busy schedule. Just another convenient service of your Montgomery County Clerk of Courts, Mike Foley.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. Sorry about that. Excuse me. We welcome you back here at the Justin Kinner Show. I know the show's been kind of on and off over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, but that's because we've had Red Spring training action right here. Dayton's radio, home of the Reds, 1410 ESPN Radio. Can't believe baseball's coming up. I mean, baseball's technically here, spring training. But yeah, spring training, most of the games have been, about around 3 o'clock, preempting my show. We'll be on tomorrow. Off Thursday, back on Friday, as far as that's concerned, just with the show schedule with the Red Spring Training. But glad to be on today. Talked a lot of college basketball. We do have more college basketball coming up around the corner. We'll be joined by Paul Fritschner with the Rebound Rundown, nonetheless. But speaking of Paul, how about Paul Blanton? Paul Blanton, I hope you're well. Paul Blanton says, for anyone to have hope and faith in the Mike Brown Cincinnati Bengals is wasting their time and emotions. This is going back to the news that we talked about when we opened up the show earlier today, that the Cincinnati Bengals have opted not to use the franchise tag on Trey Hendrickson. Now, a lot of you say, okay, well, no, that's smart because, he wasn't a part of their plans moving forward. I think he played a role in their future, just maybe not on the field, but as far as what he could have got in return to put out on the field. I think to let him go. ESPN put out their list of their top 50 free agents, and Trey Hendrickson was the number one free agent on that list. You mean to tell me that a guy that people are going to be lining up to get in free agency, okay? You mean to tell me that there was no value there? They couldn't have got anything for him? And not just so much about right now with the tag and trade scenario, but let's go back to, of course, at the deadline last year. Okay, let's go back to, the decision to give him the $30 million for 1 year anyways. Why not just trade him last offseason? For anyone that's just making it about right now, this goes beyond that. He was never a part of their future, which means they should have done everything in their power to make sure that they get something in return. Now, a lot of you keep saying, well, they're going to get that compensatory third-round pick. Yes, but that's a 2027 third-round pick, not a 2026 pick. Some fans didn't like my take on this earlier when I said I think that a 2026 fourth-round pick actually is more valuable to the Bengals than a 2027 third. As crazy as that sounds, this is an audition year for the Bengals, an audition year for Joe Burrow. Not for Joe Burrow to audition for the Bengals, but the other way around. Can Duke Tobin, who thinks Duke Tobin is the general manager of the year in his head every year. He could do no wrong, right? I think we've seen that, his stubbornness at both, media. He's addressed the media twice since the season has ended after missing the playoffs for 3 straight years. And both times he's just made himself look like an absolute fool. But I think they made a mistake by not tag and trading him. I think they made a mistake by not trying to move him at the deadline. I think they made a mistake by not trading him last offseason. I think they made a mistake by not trading him at the deadline before that. They continuously told you that he was not a part of their future, but yet continued to make and this is why I got semi-critical of Joe Burrow, because I said they signed him last year because Joe Burrow bullied them into doing it. And I said, if there was an adult or anyone with the backbone in that front office, they would have said, Joe, I know you want Trey Hendrickson here, but we feel that the money that it would cost to keep Trey Hendrickson here would go a lot further if we use those dollars elsewhere. And I would have respected that way more than whatever crap this is, to not get a dime in return for who just lets a top 5 pass rusher go? Who does that? Seriously. The Bengals had a guy that was on, he's not Myles Garrett and he's not Max Crosby. But outside of those two, who else would you put in that conversation? He's right there. He's in the top 5 conversation. You just let a top 5 pass rusher walk right out the door for nothing. That's seriously ridiculous. Ryan Roth said, Trey is old and injured. Let him go. Should have traded him last year. I agree they should have traded him last year, but let's stop with he's old and injured. He's not old, and he had an injury last year that he purposely did not rush back from, because what was the purpose? He knew he was going to be a free agent this year. Why risk tearing an ACL or any other major significant injury that would impact his ability to get signed this upcoming offseason? His bad attitude was a result of the poor managerial skills from the up top in that front office. He's not old. Trey Hendrickson's going to go and be healthy and probably ball out in Lou Anarumo's defense with the Colts. Or he's going to go to Detroit and play alongside Hutchinson, and the Lions are going to be just an absolute lethal pass rushing attack defense this upcoming season. He's not old. And beggars can't be choosers. The Bengals are not good enough to sit there and say, I don't know, you're kind of old. What the Bengals should have said is, man, you're pretty good. We need more of you. So, Mr. Roth, I disagree. If the Bengals had a solid defense and they wanted to move on from him, okay. But the Bengals have nothing. Nothing. There's not one player on that defense. You may like the direction of a couple of these guys, but they have zero proven entities on that defense, on the worst defense in the NFL. And the one piece that they could have built around, they just move on from. So you said he's too old. I don't think he's too old. I think that right now the Bengals should have said, hey, Trey Hendrickson, we need you because we have to be good in 26. Because if we're bad and miss the playoffs again, we're going to lose Joe Burrow. This isn't you can't use regular team logic for Trey Hendrickson because the Bengals aren't a regular team. They are a poorly run joke of an organization that is trying to audition to keep their star quarterback from divorcing them. I think this is silly at the end of the day. Ryan Ross said 33 is getting old and back injuries take away your ability to get off the ball fast. Again, he's 31, not 33. He had one injury. He has not had a history of injuries. He's fine. He is going to be a dominant pass rusher this upcoming season while the Bengals again sit there and say, why did we get rid of him again? Stop. I know you're a Bengals fan, but stop defending this buffoon of a GM and of an organization. They're a joke. They don't make enough good decisions for you to sit there and argue and say, oh, no, they made a good decision. They did not. By the way, they could have tagged him and he could have played for them this year. They needed him this year. The Bengals aren't good enough to just let a talent like that go. Paulie, the Bengal fan, says that they're going to miss the playoffs in 2026. I mean, I got to see what they do this offseason, but if they're putting a lot of eggs in the draft basket, I have no confidence in their ability to draft. Colton Schmidt, what up, Colton? He says, Colton says, Bengals fans making excuses again, trying to make it seem that getting rid of him is the best thing ever when it's just going to slap them right back in the face. Yeah. I think it's a silly move. I really do. And I get it. You're going to get a compensatory pick in 2027, a third-round pick. That'll be nice in 2027. But what happens if you miss the playoffs in 2026 and Joe Burrow's pissed off and demands out, and now you don't have Trey Hendrickson, you don't have Joe Burrow, you have a pissed-off Jamar Chase, but hey, you at least have that third-round pick in 2027. I mean, it's a gutsy move by a front office with no brains. Just saying. How about this news that came out just a little bit ago? I thought this was interesting. I don't know what to make of this. I don't know what to make of Kyler Murray. Where are we on Kyler Murray? I saw somebody say, no one out there right now is saying that they are a Kyler Murray away from winning a Super Bowl. But I can also say that a year ago at this time, nobody truly believed that they were a Sam Darnold away from winning a Super Bowl. And yet the Seahawks are waiting on line one. I mean, I don't know what to make of this news that just came out about a half hour ago that the Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals, have informed quarterback Kyler Murray that they intend to just outright release him on the first day of the league year next Wednesday, barring a trade between now and then. Arizona will owe him $36 million guaranteed in 2026 and another $19.5 million would have triggered on March 15th for 2027. He will now be moving on. All right, Kyler Murray, in 7 seasons in Arizona, threw for 23,000 yards, had 153 total touchdowns in that span of time. 38, 48, and 1 was the record. Where will Kyler Murray end up next? I don't know what to make of Kyler Murray. I truly don't. I don't know. Is he good? Is he bad? He's not elite. I don't think he's bad. I think Kyler Murray's, in the right situations, a pretty damn good quarterback, right? Like, let me ask you, Mac Jones or Kyler Murray? And by the way, I'm not saying it's for sure Kyler Murray. I'm asking, where are we with who Kyler Murray is as a quarterback? I guess is what I'm throwing out to you guys. I am curious your thoughts. 937-518-1410. You can weigh in on the conversation there. I know Kyler Murray, the problem with him is just, the fact that he's been injured a lot. He only played last season in 5 games? But, he's going to be made available. He's going to be made available to a lot of teams for very cheap. And a lot of you are going to say, well, no one's a Kyler Murray away from a Super Bowl. But I'm here to tell you, nobody in their right mind thought that a team was a Sam Darnold away from winning a Super Bowl, and the Seahawks just did that. Kyler Murray in the 5 games that he played in this season, all right, he completed nearly 70% of his passes in the 5 games that he played in. All right. In week 1 against New Orleans, he completed 21 of 29 passes for 163 yards and 2 touchdowns. In week 2, he threw for 220 yards and a touchdown, completing 17 of 25. In week 3 against San Francisco, he threw for 159 yards and a touchdown, completing 62% of his passes in that bout. 200 yards and 2 touchdowns against Seattle, who won the Super Bowl, of course, and then threw for 220 yards and a touchdown against Tennessee. And then, of course, he missed a lot of time the rest of the season due to injury. But he's available. Treg, what up, Treg? Treg says probably Cleveland with the laughing emoji. Look, I got to tell you, I don't know what to make of Shedeur Sanders. I don't know what to make of Deshaun Watson. I know that there's really nothing to go off of those two to make you feel all warm and fuzzy moving forward. But I would be hesitant to say that Kyler Murray would not be an upgrade over either of those two. Who knows? I don't know where Kyler Murray ends up next. I mean, let me look at this too real quick. I don't know where he could. I mean, let's look at the AFC East as we sit here right now. So the AFC East, Buffalo has their quarterback. They're good. It could be Miami. I'm curious to see what Miami's going to do with Tua. Kyler Murray could end up in Miami. Obviously, New England has their quarterback. The Jets. If Kyler Murray, if you're trying to go resurrect your career somewhere, does the Jets make sense? The Jets are already spending $20 million a year on Justin Fields for the back half of that contract. Let's go to the AFC South. Obviously, if you're the Texans, you have CJ Stroud. What if the Texans said, you know what, we want Kyler Murray, and we'll have a quarterback battle between those two heading in, because the Texans are trying to decipher if Stroud is the guy that they're going to give a max contract extension to. The Colts obviously are going to have Daniel Jones. The Jaguars are set. The Titans have Cam Ward, so I don't think he's going to go there. You look at the AFC West. Denver has Bo Nix. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes. The Raiders are going to draft, Mendoza out of Indiana with their number 1 pick, and Justin Herbert's with the Chargers. You look at the AFC North. Lamar is with the Ravens. Burrow with the Bengals. Pittsburgh and Ham I don't think make a lot of sense. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be there, and Cleveland is a possibility. Look at the NFC East. Dak with the Cowboys. The Giants have their quarterback, at least as of right now, with Harbaugh as their head coach. The Eagles have Jalen Hurts, and the Commanders have their quarterback set as well. The Bears, Lions, Packers, and Vikings. Well, I shouldn't say the Vikings, but the Bears, Lions, and Packers all seem to be set at quarterback. It's the Vikings that maybe he goes there. Kyler Murray to Minnesota would be interesting with Addison and Justin Jefferson. Not a bad spot right there. All right, maybe he goes and plays for Stefanski with the Falcons. You have the Panthers who are set at quarterback. New Orleans needs a quarterback. Baker's with the Buccaneers. The Cardinals will be looking for a quarterback. They're moving on from him. The Rams are set with Stafford, MVP quarterback. San Fran, they're comfortable with their quarterback situation, and Seattle just won a Super Bowl. I think the two teams that are the most likely, I think Minnesota makes sense for Kyler Murray. The Falcons potentially for Kyler Murray, or the Cleveland Browns for Kyler Murray. I think those 3 teams right there. The Jets could potentially be a player in that as well. But if I'm Kyler Murray, do I really want to go to the Jets? No. Do I really want to go to Cleveland? I mean, that defense is pretty sick. They're going to invest into that offensive line. It's already started, and they're going to go get some wide receivers, and they have a good run game. I could see Cleveland being a destination spot there for Kyler Murray. Who knows where this will all end up at the end of the day. All right, good stuff. I want to go back to college basketball. A good friend of the show, Paul Fritschner with the Rebound Rundown. He's going to join us next. It's the Justin Kinner Show. Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Okay, class, let's begin.
Psst, love your boots. I just sold a pair like that on eBay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it took like 2 seconds to list, and they sold almost immediately. I've been selling everything lately. Some chunky boots, a faux fur coat I never wore, and a vintage chair that was more of an expensive clothing rack.
I actually bought these on eBay. Wait, are you Kitty Sell Stuff from Brooklyn?
Okay, quiet, please.
Find what you love. Sell what you don't. eBay. Things people love.
A small business affirmation from Progressive. Bakery owners, you will be loved today. Every pastry will be flaky. Your cake will make a child's day. Your delivery van won't get sideswiped by a distracted garbage truck driver. But if so, breathe easy, knowing you'll get back to business quickly with Progressive protecting your commercial auto. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. From posters and presentations to labels and loyalty cards, Staples has all the print to boost your brand. Shop now in-store or you can shop online. Staples, that was easy.
KTH Parts Industries in St. Paris is now hiring and has increased the hourly wage of $22.48. That's right. KTH is looking for elite production associates, including press operators, overhead crane operators, and forklift operators. Apply today. KTH offers excellent benefits, including medical, dental, and 401k. KTH is a short drive from Bellefonte, Troy, Piqua, and Urbana. Upgrade your career and be valued by a company that really cares about you. Apply now at kth.net, an equal opportunity employer.
On eBay, every find has a story. Like if you're looking for a vintage band tee, not just any tee, the band tee. You wore it everywhere until your best friend stole it. Now you're on eBay, and there it is. Same tee from the same tour. The things you love have a way of finding their way back to you, especially on eBay. Where else can you find that mint trading card you searched everywhere for, or your first car, the one you wish you never sold? It has to be eBay. Shop eBay for millions of finds, each with a story. eBay, things people love.
It Takes a Village Diabetes Awareness Day, November 2nd, 10 a.m. at Central State Dayton, 840 Germantown Street. Enjoy health screenings, a community health fair, diabetes wellness talks, line dancing, and free food demos. Don't miss it.
O'Reilly. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, get 5 quarts of Valvoline full synthetic motor oil and a MicroGuard Select oil filter for $36.99. Limits apply. See store for details. Trust our professional parts people to recommend the products for your next oil change. Visit your O'Reilly Auto Parts store or shop online at O'ReillyAuto.com. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Workdays can be unpredictable, but your workwear shouldn't be. With the Cintas Apparel Plus program, you'll have freshly laundered garments for everyone on your team delivered every week. Cintas has workwear for just about any job imaginable, with high-performance fabrics and an uncompromising fit that stretches and moves with you. Don't leave looking and feeling good to chance. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Now, back to the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, everybody, we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, 937-518-1410. We'll get back to your texts. We'll get back to your calls coming up here around the corner. Of course, the Combine, the NFL Combine has come and went. Of course, we'll dive into some NFL offseason free agency news when it comes to the Bengals, the Browns. We'll talk Ohio State football coming up around the corner as well. The shows have been kind of, in and out over the last, week, 2 weeks this week with all the Red Spring training action, of course, but excited to be with you here today on this rainy, beautiful Tuesday, nonetheless. But again, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show. Let's transition over to college basketball. And joining us now with the Rebound Rundown, like he does each and every week, Mr. Paul Fritschner. Paul, welcome in, sir. How are you? Happy Tuesday.
Hey, it's March, Justin. It's a great time of the year. It's the best time of the year. It's good to talk to you.
We got a little taste of that. Look, so I want to start. We'll start with the team that's currently, gearing up for their conference tournament that tips off this week. We'll start in the Horizon League. A lot of teams that we talk about each week in action tonight. We'll talk about the Red Hawks. Xavier's in action, of course. Dayton in action. We'll get to all of these teams coming up. But a game that we got to see over the weekend. I know you were there in Northern Kentucky. Wright State. I know they didn't have anything to play for, but they had just wrapped up the regular season title in the game before. That game, talking with coaches, it was kind of a dangerous game because you got to get their psyche right. You got to get their mentality right because you can't have them go out there on a tough road environment against a rival and have the mindset of there's nothing to play for. Well, maybe they did have that mindset early, but it created one of the more entertaining games of the year, a 20-point comeback for Wright State over Northern Kentucky to get their 20th win of the season, the regular season outright Horizon League champs, and the regular season on a high note, and look to take that momentum into their conference tournament, which for them tips off tomorrow. But what a wild weekend. What a wild way to close out the season for Wright State on Saturday.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Wright State. That was the first time I was able to see them in person this year, Justin, and to be able to watch them come back the way they did. When they're down by 20 in the first half, they're down 18 at halftime, and then they get LJ Wells in foul trouble, and that was really the difference. I talked to Darren Horn, NKU's head coach, after the game, and he was talking about how much of an impact it makes on NKU when they don't have a guy like LJ Wells, who, by the way, could have gone and played wherever he wanted to play last year out of the portal, right? I mean, I don't want to say he could have gone to the top, but he could have had his pick out of the portal. He comes back and has been such an important factor for NKU this year. And then you don't have him for a really important 6-minute stretch from the 10-minute mark to the 4-minute mark in the second half. And because of that, Wright State's able to cut it down. They put themselves in a position to win. And then NKU has had trouble rebounding at times this year. And you saw that at the very end. They don't block out. Amari Bay with the putback. Wright State wins, an emotional win, a gutsy win for Wright State. And to be honest, Justin, I think it kind of works out for both sides, because I think NKU probably would have rather played Oakland than Green Bay anyway in the first round. And for Wright State, you come back and you gain some confidence from being able to rally from a deficit like that in the first half. So all the way around, I in a weird backwards way, thought it kind of worked out for both sides.
Yeah, Wright State will take on Cleveland State Wednesday night in the Horizon League tournament. It'll be their first game. They win, they'll get to Indianapolis in the semifinals. Nonetheless, they could actually end up running into Northern Kentucky again in the semifinals if all plays out right. You got a chance to see TJ Birch in action for Wright State. He had a very big day yesterday. He won Defensive Player of the Year in the Horizon League, all Horizon League first team. And he transferred from Ball State, and this is the first real season that he's actually got to play heavy minutes. And Clint Sargent, Wright State coach, he won Coach of the Year. I put it out on social media earlier. I'm like, I don't think people really truly understand what they just did this year. They just won a conference that's an older conference. And with 2 true freshmen and quite a few first and second year guys, TJ Birch, one of those guys. The portal treated Wright State very fairly this offseason, that's for sure. And you got to see some of that talent for Wright State.
Yeah, you absolutely did. And it's impressive to see a team like Wright State. And I've talked about this before on the show with you about, over the course of a long season, what does it do to underclassmen? What does it do to freshmen? Does it wear you down? I mean, you think about how different the college basketball calendar is now compared to, a few years ago, and you're playing for so long, and to be able to still perform at that level here in the month of March, it's a testament to those guys. And for Wright State, they're hoping that continues for another 3 games.
Paul Fritschner, Rebound Rundown with us. Let's continue on. A team that might be playing their way back into some conversation. The Bearcats, I mean, we've counted them out a lot this year, or kind of given up on them a lot this year. It just seemed like, the sky was falling, very similar to what we talked about last week. But Cincinnati, they just keep getting big wins. Another big blowout win over the weekend at home. Just talk about the Bearcats, and you look at the record, you kind of toss them aside, but are they a team that's really playing their way back into the bubble conversation, do you think?
They have to win tonight against BYU. There's no doubt about that. They have to go 2-0 this week, and it starts with a win against BYU tonight at Fifth Third Arena. But look, if you filter just from that West Virginia loss until now on Bart Torvik, Cincinnati is playing as the 6th best team in the country. I mean, you think back to that after that West Virginia game, I'm sitting there on the Rebound Rundown saying, maybe it's just best if Wes and UC agree to mutually part ways. Now it's best for both sides. Wes can get out ahead of things and get a different job in the coaching carousel, and Cincinnati can get a head start on their coaching search, and it just benefits both parties. Well, since that game, since Wes Miller, I mean, it sounded like he was crying on the post-game radio show, and I don't blame him, Justin. I mean, an emotional loss where you want so badly to succeed at a program like Cincinnati. You feel bad for the fans, you feel bad for everybody else, and he was very emotional, and that spilled over into the post-game radio show. Apologizes to the fans and the courtside club, all of that. Since then, they're one of the best teams in the country. And why are they doing it? Well, they're playing through Mustafa Cham and Baba Miller, who are an incredibly talented front court. I would argue that Baba Miller is one of the most athletic, if not the most athletic players that Cincinnati has had in the last 15 years. And you can go down a list of some pretty athletic guys that Cincinnati has had. Think back to the McCronin days. But I'm telling you what, Baba Miller is special. He's a difference maker, and he's playing like an all Big 12 type of player right now. He probably won't get on the team just because I think wins matter. But right now, I don't think they're a tournament team. They're playing like a tournament team. I think they need to still have a lot of work to do to be in the NCAA tournament. I mean, you look at bracket matrix right now, they're not even on the bubble in bracket matrix, but you win 2 this week, then you start to say, all right, can you go to Kansas City? And conference tournaments don't matter any more than the game in November matters, right? But at the end of the day, as I always say, it's a group of humans on the selection committee that are sitting there watching these teams night in and night out. Could they be swayed a little bit internally by whether Cincinnati should be in or not? The way they're playing right now, they're not supposed to be, but they might be. But they have to win the next 2 days or the next 2 games.
Yeah, Cincinnati in action tonight at home. BYU, that game's on ESPN2. That's a 9 o'clock tip-off coming up later on this evening. Xavier over to the Big East. Not a lot. They look 14-15. They have Seton Hall in town tonight. That's a 7 o'clock tip-off later on this evening. But again, it all goes back to Richard Pitino. I think the big headlines coming out of Xavier right now. Reporters trying to back him into a corner with that Providence job, everything opening up. And unless the coach comes out and says, I am absolutely staying, I have no interest in that job, I am not leaving, it just seems until you hear those types of words come out of a coach's mouth, the speculation is going to continue to be out there. That's the big thing coming out of Xavier right now is, Richard Pitino, will he be around long enough to continue building something at Xavier, a program in which he says he wants to win a championship there?
Yeah, so last night I was at his radio show, and during the fan question segment of the radio show, a nice older lady came up and took the microphone and said, Richard, essentially, I think her quote was, I forget exactly what she said. I don't want you to we don't want you to bounce, or it was a very funny way that she was phrasing, essentially, please don't leave again, right? I mean, Richard, you've only been here 1 year. Don't leave. And he addressed it for almost 3 straight minutes on, hey, look, I'm not going to leave after a 14 or 15 win season. There's a lot more I want to accomplish. I want to win a championship at Xavier, all of those things. I do, on one hand, understand the speculation just from when you think about it logically. And I know Xavier fans are probably thinking, the coach left last year, Chris Mack left. You've had coaches forever leave. So you have this trigger warning as soon as you see here, is my coach going to leave? The walls go up. No way, please, no, not now, not like this. But if you just think about it logically, he went to Providence. He's a Providence alum. The reports have been that Providence had maybe double or close to double the NIL that Xavier had this year. He's a Northeast guy. Like, just logically, it kind of made sense that those rumors would start to swirl, especially with Kim English likely being fired at the end of the season. But on the flip side, Justin, it sounds like Xavier is going to almost double their NIL resources from this current season going into the upcoming portal season for next year. And you do that, you give Richard Pitino everything that he needs to win at the Big East level. And then the other thing for the Providence side, you'd have to think about buying out Kim English, buying out Richard Pitino, paying Richard Pitino, and then putting a roster together. I mean, you're talking about maybe a $30 to $40 million investment in 1 year. Providence has a lot of money. I don't know if they have that kind of money. So from that perspective, I do think I fully believe that Richard Pitino will be the head coach at Xavier next year. He's not going anywhere this offseason. And he's going to have the NIL resources to put together a really competitive team next year at Xavier. Yeah,
it's one of those where it's not a Xavier problem. It's just a circumstance that, it's a perfect storm of, oh man, like you got a great coach and last year, after losing Miller, and then sure enough, after 1 year with Pitino, then the one job that you would almost have to circle and be worried about is actually opening up. And that's what a lot of Xavier fans will be keeping an eye on, nonetheless. But it's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Paul Fritschner, the Rebound Rundown, joining us now. Let's go over to the MAC, the number 19 team in the country now, the undefeated 29-0 Redhawks. They're at home tonight. Seems like they're always at home. They're at home tonight, which is a good thing for them. But they have Toledo in town. They are a 7.5-point favorite. And, man, they're the biggest story in college basketball. We talk about it every week, but I truly feel like they are the biggest story in college basketball right now because they went from a little feel-good story that everyone was keeping an eye on to now you have a lot of bubble teams and a lot of, analysts out there who are really paying attention to what's going on right now when it comes to Miami at this point. So just kind of curious your thoughts as they continue to try to fight everyone coming at them, trying to remain undefeated. Seems like they're, at large chances. They're alive. They're there, but they have to continue to take care of business, and they have to continue that on tonight with Toledo. Just your thoughts on Miami as we sit here in the early goings of March.
Yeah, I truly cannot wrap my mind around why every talking head in the country is not propping Miami up as the story that needs to champion the sport right now, where there's so much separation between the haves and the have-nots, and the teams spend money versus the teams that don't because they don't have the money. You talk about the transfer portal. Miami only has one impact transfer. They have freshmen. They have players that came back that could have gone into the portal that didn't. They chose to come back and compete at Miami. And the way that Miami has won games this year, I mentioned on my show that you look at the lull that they had in January, that lull resulted in them winning games in overtime and not in regulation. But you can go up and down the list of how hard it is to win every single one of your games is such an accomplishment. I don't care what the schedule is at this point. If you wanted to argue in December that Miami was 14 or 15-0 and they hadn't played a great schedule, all right, fine. In fact, I remember I just went back and rewatched my Miami preview that I did with one of their broadcasters, Luke West-Pauli, before the season, and we both said on the show they're likely to start 15 or 20-0. We clipped ourselves saying it would not surprise either one of us if they started 20-0 just because of how talented we knew they were. But they also lost their starting point guard. Then on Friday, after they've been on the road for a week, they lose their backup point guard, and a freshman, Trey Perry, finds out 2 hours before the game that he's going to get the start. He goes and hits the game-winning layup. It is such a good story for college basketball, and more than a story, the fact that they continue to win games like this. I mean, you can go up and down the list of high major teams that have quad 2 and quad 3 losses this year, and they have won all of their games. I understand it's not the most difficult schedule, but at this point in the season, Justin, if you are telling me that a team had a goal 31 times this year and they accomplished that goal 31 times and they still cannot play for the ultimate goal just because they maybe slip up in a high variance tournament in Cleveland, that to me is ridiculous. It goes against everything that this sport should stand for right now. It's frustrating to me, having covered this team and knowing the nuances of everything they've gone through. And I understand the national dialogue probably doesn't know or watch or see every possession and understand all of those stories. But at the same time, there is just so much to like about this Miami team. And nobody is arguing either. Nobody's arguing that Miami is going to beat BYU by 20 if they played BYU. Like, BYU very well could win that game by 15 or 20 points. But getting to the tournament, you have to allow Miami the opportunity. And for Bruce Pearl to get up there the other day and talk about that when he years ago, and he's very clearly couching the whole thing in the Auburn discussion. It's ridiculous to me, and I don't understand why there's so much pushback, but I guess somebody has to be a naysayer.
Yeah, and I think they're interesting because this reminds me of when UC on the football side of things years ago when we're talking about them in the 14 playoff. My pushback on them is similar to, and it's not really I have pushback for the Redhawks. It's just I feel like at times we know what goes into the criteria for what makes you at large worthy, right? But then when there's a feel-good story like UC football years ago or the Redhawks this year, it's like we don't hold them to the criteria we do everyone else because we want the story. That's the linchpin in all of this that's really bringing out all the drama. And of course, like you mentioned, it's not a coincidence that you have him bringing all this up when his son's the coach at Auburn, talking about Bruce Pearl, of course. Plus, he's a polarizing coaching figure. Let's just put it that way. So when he says it, everyone's just jumping on him left and right. They're going to continue to be the talking point moving forward. And, everyone around the country is interested in Miami, Toledo tonight. Who would have thought that a year ago at this time?
The last thing I would say is, and I don't know, I haven't asked Travis or any of the players about this, but I just have to wonder what they are thinking in the locker room right now listening to this, because they're still in control. It's not like we're doing this whole discourse. Everybody's talking about it over the last 3 days. They're still undefeated.
Yep.
It's not like they've lost a game and now we're debating whether we put them in. They're still undefeated and they still have a chance to win the conference tournament. It's not like today is Friday and Saturday and it's leading into Selection Sunday. It's like, what's the committee going to do? it's still all in front of them, and the players can control the narrative anyway.
Travis Steele had that little incident. I know there's been a statement put out. He got fined, all this stuff. But you think the pressure is starting to mount up a little bit? Travis Steele, I don't think, has that blow up a month and a half, 2 months ago. It's March now. You can start to feel the pressure start to mount up. I think it's Miami. It's one of those where if you don't do it, you're technically not supposed to, but you've come this far. So screw that. We're going for it. We want it. It feels like they're playing more tense too. They're starting to win a lot more close games. They're back to doing that again, which is fine. But like they're playing tighter. They're avoiding, overcoming some of the injuries that you mentioned a little bit ago. He lost his temper, pushing the speaker over. Do you sense the pressure starting to kind of mount up a little bit?
Absolutely. They understand the situation. They understand that, look, if they were to go 0-2 this week, now that's a whole different conversation. You lose to Toledo, you lose to Ohio, and then you lose in the conference tournament. You have 3 losses. All right. That is a different conversation, but they haven't done that yet, right? I mean, they are still undefeated. And if they go 2-0 this week, if they finish 31-0 on the season, they haven't won at the Convocation Center at OU since 2011. There is a lot to play for still in this season. They want to get there. They understand if they want to put themselves in the at-large conversation, they probably do have to go undefeated or go in with 1 loss.
Jeff Goodman had a chance to catch up, moving over to the Dayton Flyers as we wrap this up today, had a chance to catch up with Anthony Grant, head coach of the Flyers. Simply put it out there, lots of speculation out there about you potentially retiring. He didn't say, yes, I'm retiring, but he didn't say, no, I'm not. Of course, that's going to fuel everything. What puts those conversations on the back burner is winning, and that's something that Dayton continues to do. Dayton, again, I saw the top 25 rankings came out, and they had some votes in the conversation. I think that's a little crazy, but that they're back on people's radar. Dayton playing their best basketball at the most important time of the season.
They're defending better. Their offense looks a whole lot different, and it runs through Amal Latong the way he's playing right now to be the A10 player, the co-player of the week. A couple of weeks ago, he's scoring really efficiently. They're defending at a level that they need to be competitive in the A10. And look, Justin, I'll say it. I know they haven't won the A10 title in the conference tournament since 2003. They are playing like a team right now that can do it. There's still a week and a half left. I'm not sitting here predicting that they're going to, but they are playing right now like a team that can win the A10 title. And if they do that, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Anthony Grant's back. They went out and accomplished their goal.
Yeah, Dayton on the road tonight at Richmond. They're a 5.5-point favorite. 2 games this week as they close it out, Paul, at Richmond tonight. And then, we saw what they did in their bounce-back game against St. Louis after they got pummeled by 30, blew out St. Louis at home in the second go-round. They have a chance to get a get-back game on Friday against VCU after getting embarrassed at their place just a few weeks ago as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You play Richmond, you play VCU, you make some statements because in this winning streak, right, tonight would be 6, Friday would be 7.
Yep.
2 of your 7 wins would be St. Louis and VCU. It's not like you're beating the bottom of the conference in all 7 of those wins. You're beating the 2 best teams in the conference if you can do that. So, yeah, significant week for Dayton. They're not in the at-large conversation. They still got to win the A10 tournament, but they're playing like a team right now that can do that.
All right, it's all picking up. I can't believe March is officially here, but we'll be talking more conference tournament action, Selection Sunday, not too far off in the distance. Miami, the biggest story in college basketball. We have it all, and we touch on that each and every week with Paul Fritschner from the Rebound Rundown. Paul, you the man. Appreciate you.
Talk next week, Justin. Thanks for having me.
All right, good stuff. It's the Justin Kinner Show right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, 937-518-1410. More of your texts, more of your calls, more of your reaction when we come back.